Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, we've gone through the 8 characteristics which do not have opposites except for qalqala. We skipped it to look at it in more detail, and now we'll look at it in more detail. So, Imam al-Jazri says, qalqalatun qutbu jaddil wallinu. Okay. Qalqalatun qutbu jadd. So what he's saying here is, qalqala has these letters. Qutbu jadd. Okay. So, qaf, ta, ba, ja, jim, and dal. Okay. Those letters. Now, let's get into it. Qalqala. What is it? Linguistically, it means something that is disturbed in moving. Okay. For example, the Arabs used to say, تقلقلت القدر على النار. The pot shook on fire. Right? I.e., it was vibrating. It's disturbed. The applied definition within the science of tajweed is that it means emitting the letter of qalqala when it's sakin by parting the two components of articulating parts, and it's not accompanied by any hint of haraka. Any hint of haraka. Okay? Out of the 3 harakat, fatha, dhamma, kasra. Its letters are 5 contained in the words qutbu jadd. Okay? Now, let's go to the next page because this stuff is going to be explained more anyway. Bismillah. So if you noticed, we said qalqala is emitted by separation. What is that similar to? Similar to harakat. If you remember, there's 3 ways that letters are emitted in the speech system, in the human speech system. There are the harakat letters, which are emitted by separation. There are the mad letters, which are just lengthening with the larynx and the shape of the mouth. Okay, vibrating the chords, etc., as we learned in the beginning. And the third one, which is collision for sakin letters. Right? Because sakin letters, you've only got one articulation. One articulation, you have 2 points going to 1 point. Right? However, when you come to qalqala now, and you have a sakin letter, you must separate. So that's very similar to what? Harakat letters. However, it's separating without a hint of haraka, as we said in the beginning. Right? We said you must separate, right, by parting the 2 components, separating I, not accompanied by any hint of haraka. That means that it would sound like this: ab, a, b, b, b. See how it's not opened at all? It's not ba, but it's a, b, b. Okay. Or ub, not ubu. Okay. There's a common mistake. And same with kasra, and we'll get into that later on. So basically what it means is you're separating the 2 parts without moving your jaw down into fatha, or without moving your lips forward, right? But you're relaxing. You're only letting go, right? You're letting go of the organs to let sound out. Because if you remember now, why is it that we have qalqala? When we were mentioning, for example, the shidda letters. Do you remember when we mentioned the shidda letters? The shidda letters are letters that stop sound because the articulation closes. It's closed. The articulation is closed, so the air can't pass through. So qalqala letters are all shidda letters. They can't, the air and the sound can't flow unless you have qalqala. So qalqala is only there to let sound flow. Now understand this point very well, because this will allow you to do qalqala correctly. Qalqala exists only to let sound flow. Look, ab. What can I do to make the sound flow? Ab. let go of the lips. Abu, abu. You just let go. You let go and let it separate the tiniest bit so that the a can flow out. Do you see how, by understanding why qalqala exists, you can know how much to part your lips? You only part your lips the amount that's required to let sound flow. Okay? So there's no bouncing, right? There's no bouncing into another haraka, right? There's no extra sound to make exaggerated, right? There's no exaggerated sound. You're only letting go and parting enough to let sound flow out of the mouth. Abu, aju, adu, apple, or apple. أجد قطن بكت. هذا شد letters and قطب جد. هذا قلقل letters. Right? قطب جد. We've just done examples of each. Now looking at this then. The difference between قلقل letters, ساكن letters and متحرك letters. أي قلقل letters. ساكن as non-vowel and متحرك meaning vowel with حركات. Letters with حركات. With فتحة كسر ضمة. Okay. Now, if the letter is sukun, like this, then you omit it with collision, and it's accompanied with nothing. Okay, that's a normal letter of sukun. Okay, so we're not talking about the qalqal letters, we're talking about any other letter. If it has sukun, then when you have sukun, you only collide to one point, and that's it, no separation. That's it, you stay there. You relax in that one point. That's collision. When it comes to qalqala letters, right? You omit it by parting your lips, or parting whatever the organs are, like this. Abu, abu, abu. Okay, it's a separation, and it's accompanied by nothing. Do you see? So you're not adding an extra sound. You're not adding an extra articulation, but you're just parting to let sound out, to let it flow. Okay, now when you come to haraka, a letter of the haraka is done by parting, same way as qalqala letters, by parting, by separation. However, after separating, or with the separation, you have haraka. Ba, aba, ba. You separate into the fatha. Ba, aba, not abu, the. So that would be qalqala. Aba. See how the mouth is open for fatha? Right, jaw is down, right, tongue is relaxed. Here's a comparison, look. Here you have ba. Let's zoom into this. So here you have a ba with haraka. Okay. As you can see, the mouth is opened. Right? So look here. The mouth has opened. But here, right? A ba with sukoon, with qalqala, it's only parted to let sound out. It's not separated to be a big shape. It's very small compared to what? The open mouth there. Then you have with no qalqala at all, right? Only collision, because only with sukoon with no qalqala, right? That's fully collided, full collision. Okay, but now qalqala has two levels to it in terms of what we would say, or what people say, its length, right? Or how much of it you can hear. Now, in this part of the book, he didn't explain it. However, the verse is here, so I'll explain it inshallah. What Imam al-Jazri is saying is وَبَيْنَ مُقَلْقَلَةٍ مُقَلْقَلَةٍ okay وبين مقلقل إن سكن وإيكن في الوقف أبنا كان أبنا. So what he's saying here is وإيكن في الوقف كان أبينا, meaning if qalqala is in waqf, right, waqf meaning in stopping, then the qalqala is more clear. Abyana means clear, clearer. You'll find opinions out there from other scholars, not Shaykh ibn Suwaid, who say that this means that there are more levels to qalqala, and that the qalqala basically is more exaggerated in other parts, in like places when you stop, in comparison to inside a sentence or in a word. That is not correct, okay? Because there's no exaggeration in tajweed. There's no forceful and purposeful exaggeration in tajweed. There's always natural tendencies. Always natural tendencies in tajweed. Whatever is easy for the mouth, that's what the mouth does in natural language. Okay? So what Shaykh ibn Suwaid says is basically that there is two levels to qalqala, but it's not that you're exaggerating in the second one. What happens is that the hearing hears it more clearly. So it's to do with clarity, not exaggeration. Why? Because inside a sentence, obviously, naturally, when you have qalqala within a word, between two letters, right, then the second letter that comes after the qalqala will make the qalqala less clear, because you have a letter coming after it straight away, right? Like for example, aqwataha, 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 right? You can hear the qalqala, but it's not as clear as if I was going to say it at the end of a word and I stop there. For example, if I say haqqu or abu, aqu, aqu, right? Aqu. The reason why it's more clear here is not because I'm lengthening it, but it's because there's no letter coming after. Okay? There's no letter coming after. So therefore, the duration and the clarity, right, of the qalqala is more, because there's space to hear the full qalqala, right? There's no letter coming straight after. There's full space for me to hear the entire length of the qalqala very clearly, yeah, when you're on stopping, when you stop on it, a word or a letter that has qalqala. So that is the difference, and that is how there are two levels of qalqala, okay? The first level is what? Inside a word, or between the letters. And the second level is at the end of a word, at the end of a sentence, when you stop, okay, when you stop, in a waqf, in a stopping, okay? Now, attention, point. When a letter of qalqala is merged into a letter that's identical or similar, it shouldn't have qalqala, because idgham would be broken if it was made to have qalqala, right? For example, because why is that? Because if you have a merged letter, look, if you do qalqala, you can't then merge into the next letter. Look, ja, ja. There's now three like clear different separations of jim, right? But should be only if you're merging, it must be only one touch for the jim, and then the next jim comes after as a second. We're talking about this one here. There's two jims, The first Jim is one that has two Jims merged. So because they're merged, you have only one touch. Thadja, like that. That's how you merge them. Originally it would have been Thadj and Ja, and they're merged together now. So now they're merged, you cannot do Qalqalah, you must merge them. Thadja, you can't do Thadja, no, Thadja. See? That's the first attention point. Second attention point is that when you stop on a Qalqalah letter with Shadda on it, for example, Haqqu, right? Or Watab, or Al-Hajj, or Ashad, right? The Qalqalah has got nothing to do with the first letter in the merged letters. Obviously, Qaf and Qaf are merged, which is why we got Shadda, okay? Because Shadda means you're merging two letters together. Shadda means you got two Qafs basically in this case. Okay, you merge them together and you get a Shadda letter. So Qaf and Qaf. Let's draw this for you. You have Qaf with Sukoon first, and Qaf with a Haraka or whatever it is, okay? Or maybe this one, if you're on the end now, look. Now you're ending as well here, so that's gonna have Sukoon too, if you're ending on the word. And the school will have Qalqalah, right? So, but usually if you have two Qafs, okay, what happens is they merge together and they make Qaf with Shadda, okay? At the end of the sentence now, there's two Qafs, but the second one also has Sukoon because you're ending on it. Now, thing is that for the first letter, okay, this first letter, this has nothing to do with Qalqalah. And to indicate that it's there, you actually pause on the Qaf when you're saying it, Haq, right? Haq. So first you're pausing. That's the indication of that first letter. Then for the second letter, that has Qalqalah now, because now you're actually stopping here, right? You're stopping here. Okay. You're stopping there. And it's gone, but it's okay. Okay. Right, you stopped on the second Qaf. And now there is Qalqalah on that one. So, for that reason, right, the Qalqalah also here, this Qalqalah, is not affected by a Shadda. Because this one, this Qaf here, has nothing, it's got nothing to do with this one. So the Shadda that comes through these two, right? It did not affect Qalqalah. It doesn't affect Qalqalah. You will hear an opinion where they say that Qalqalah is more exaggerated. Again, when you have Shadda, but that's incorrect because it has nothing to do with the first Qaf. Qalqalah has nothing to do with the first Qaf, so it doesn't get affected by the first Qaf. Qalqalah does not get affected, and it's the same level. So if you're stopping on the word here, if you're stopping on this word, this letter, sorry, then it will sound like Haqqu, Haqqu, just the same as when I say Haqqu or Ab, Aqu, 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 right? They're both the same clarity of Qalqalah. Haqqu. The only difference is that I now indicate this letter here by stopping. Haqqu, 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 right? That's how you say Qalqalah with Shadda. Okay? So in the example here, it says Al-Hajj, right? It's exactly the same as Bahij. Bahij. Bahij, right? Bahij and al-hajj. Bahij, al-hajj. Okay, good. That's good. I think we've finished here because we've gone through. Okay, no. We have one more left. Okay, so now when it comes to mistakes with qalqala, okay, there are four main ones. First is that you mix a sound with the harakat. Okay? And this is very, very, very common, unfortunately. You'll hear it everywhere, and you may spot it in yourself. So this is when you, for example, in this one, the example he's given is لَقَدْ كَانَ. And instead of saying لَقَدْ كَانَ, you will hear, and you might have said before as well, لَقَدْ كَانَ, لَقَدْ da, لَقَدْ. Da is fatha, not لَقَدْ. لَقَدْ the. Your jaw needs to be relaxed. You only let go of the tongue from there, separating it, without accompanying with the haraka or any hint of haraka. Not even a hint of opening your mouth. Hal da, da. Not even da. Da, da. They're both wrong. لقد, لقد. Not لقد or لقد, da. No. لقد, لقد. No hint of haraka at all. Another example, right? Tubutum. Instead of saying tubutum, people say tubutum. 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 Completely wrong. You're adding another dhamma. Here, Ibrahim. Ibrahim, instead of saying Ibrahim, they say Ibirahim. B. That's mixing it with kasra. Ibirahim. Or Ibirahim, even. Maybe people make that mistake. And I've heard very bad mistakes before. So I would not be surprised. Second type of hamza is, the second type of mistake is ending with hamza. When you say ahad, instead of saying ahad, you say ahad, or ahad. This is the most common mistake you will hear in Qalqalah. Ahad, right? Ahad. Instead of saying Qalqalah, which is natural, like ahad, which is sound from voice, from empty space. The sound of empty space. This is qalqalah. Not the vocal cord sound. Don't put any pressure on the vocal cords. The pressure is on empty space. Okay? You're just letting go and separating. Just like when you're saying fatha, you say da a. The same empty space you're using. The same empty space, but you're not really using the fatha. You're not separating into fatha, but you're just separating normally relaxed here. The ahad, not ahad, or not ahad, ahad, right? Nor is it as-samad or as-samad, no, as-samad, as-samad, as-samad. Okay. That's a very important mistake to realize and listen for. Okay. The third, stretching in sound. Okay. Excessively, basically, doing qalqala for longer than it is. Ahad, as-samad, that's not naturally letting the sound flow. That's increasing the sound. Right? Qalqala is only there to let the sound flow, and that's all. Any more than that is not natural, and it's not what qalqala is for. Qalqala is only there to let the sound flow, so you can move to the next letter easily. Right? لقد كان, not لقد كان, right? No, that's completely wrong. لقد كان is only there to make the sound flow, so it's easy to go to the next letter. Otherwise, without qalqala, it would be hard. لقد كان. You'd have a stop in the flow of sound. There's no flow there. So that's more difficult and it's less eloquent, right? To be eloquent, there's a flowing of sound. That is why qalqala exists. So do not lengthen more than need to be. Otherwise, that kills the eloquence, right? It lengthens it more and it's not strainful. Then there's a fourth mistake, cutting off the sound from the following one. For example, yaqdi, yaqdi. Where's qalqala? Nowhere to be seen. Yes, yaqdi, not yaqdi, 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 no. Yaqo, yaqo, qo. Yaqdi. Okay. Yubsirun, not yubsirun, yubsirun. Unfortunately, these ones are very common as well. يبصرون يدخلون not يدخلون الجنة no. يدخلون الجنة إن شاء الله. May Allah grant us Jannah. يدخلون, okay, like this. So these are the common mistakes, inshallah. That is the end of the lesson on Qalqalah. MashaAllah, that was a very long lesson. May Allah make it beneficial for us all.